What's up, YouTube? My name's Leanne, and I'm from Ohio. And this video is going to be about something I feel very strongly about, and many other people do as well, and that is addiction. Yeah. That is a subject that is very similar to politics when it comes to opinions. People are either on this side of the fence or on this side of the fence. You know, is it a choice or is it a disease? That is the ultimate question. People get their opinions about addicts usually from how they were raised, somebody they know, whether they have a friend that was an addict, family member, and that can be either way, rubbing them the wrong way, friend or family member, or somebody who they developed a strong feeling towards the disease side because they grew to understand the knowledge of addiction being thought of as a disease. Why people think it's a disease because of that, through knowing somebody personally, or years of research. That's another way people get their opinion. Sadly, the latter is rarely the case. Places like Harvard University and the Psychiatric Association both label addiction as a disease, and I also believe it is a disease, and I am going to explain to you today why I believe that. Dr. Kevin McCauley created the YouTube video called Pleasure Unwoven, and if you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest you do. It is absolutely fantastic. It is amazing. It is an amazing video. You should watch it more than once. I did. Yeah. It's a good video. And he explained addiction as a disease of choice, and I think that is very elegantly said. It is a great way to describe it. And the reason I needed to know fact for a lot of people who don't know why people call it a disease. It actually affects the choice-making mechanism in your brain. And yes, people have the choice to use the drug, and they make the choice to keep using the drug, but do they really? And let me explain why that is. Our bodies are designed to make us move in ways, chemically, to make us move in ways to make us survive as a species. Kind of like wolves travel in packs so that they survive. I got your back, you got mine kind of thing. Same thing with humans. We eat, we get full, it feels good, we remember that, we continue to eat. We have sex, it feels good, we want to do it again. We reproduce, it makes more babies, the species continues. Good thing for the species. We survive in that aspect. We continue on, we survive. And the reason that is dopamine and glutamate. These are two very important chemicals that make that possible. The reason that is dopamine sends reward signals up from the VTA to the NA to the frontal cortex. And now the frontal cortex becomes involved. It sends glutamate neurons back down to the midbrain. Neurons going up release dopamine down to the glutamate. Normally, this up-down communication enables these things in the environment good to survive. You know, dopamine goes up, glutamate goes down. Dopamine goes up, glutamate goes down. Dopamine says, hey, remember this, I like this. And the glutamate says, hey, okay, I'll remember. And the dopamine says, hey, I like this. And the glutamate says, okay, go get it. And that's how it's meant to work, for survival. Unfortunately, drugs and alcohol work the same mechanisms in the brain. They're survival mechanism here. And these, every time it goes up and down in the brain, in the survival mechanism in the brain here, it engraves permanent codes in that survival mechanism in the brain. Literally climbing the ladder of the survival mechanisms in the brain. Over sex, food, children, housing. Do you get what I'm saying? This is why people give up their kids, give up their loved ones, give up their housing, give up their food. They'll do their drugs before their food. They'll give up their house before their food. They'll do their drugs before they pay for their house. You get what I'm saying? Because it climbs up the ladder in their brain as number one on their survival mechanisms. And the more potent the drug is, the faster it climbs up the ladder. And it's a very, very sad thing to see. And what's even more sad about it is that this often happens before the drug addict even realizes they're an addict. And the catch-22 of it all is that your brain, while this is happening, while you're putting these drugs in that could produce this dopamine, every time you put this dopamine releasing whatever in your brain starts to believe that you're going to naturally start putting it in there for them. So your brain stops producing dopamine for you, because you're going to do it for them. Your brain becomes lazy, I guess. Not really. Yeah. Yes? I don't know. And because you keep putting this in your brain, it stops producing as much dopamine. And this causes mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. So you can either start using the drug to self-medicate, or you start using drugs and alcohol to party and be cool with your friends and, you know, fit in, and you're kind of nervous and you're trying to be like the next guy, and suddenly you develop a mental illness. It's kind of sad. Like, So, the next time you look at a drug addict as a morally unfit or, you know, piece of shit, basically, really, really think about what I'm saying here, because a lot of these people are, good people that are in some very agonizing pain with no knowledge of what they've done and why they're where they're at. It's a very, very sad situation, and I strongly suggest that you see that it isn't all it's cracked up to be, and it takes years and years, and even after years and years of sobriety, those engraved messages that you put in your brain, in the survival part of your brain, are still there. They can be there years later, and you have to fight that. That's why it's considered a disease, because you have to fight that daily, years and years later. That's why they say it never really goes away. People say, you hear people say, I'll always be an alcoholic, and they haven't drank in 20 years, and you're like, really? Like, what are you an alcoholic for? You don't drink. You know, that's why. Because they might see a drink 20 years later, and their blood pressure hits 120, they're shaking, they feel it, they want it, and that is pure agony. That is pain. That is misery. You know, I'm telling you. So, before you judge, really consider what I'm saying. That's all I have to say about this. Love you all. God bless you. Good luck to you. I hope I changed somebody's mind. Probably not, because this is a very strong subject. Like I said, you're either on one of the fences or you're not. Good luck to you all. God bless you.